Make some noise for your moderator, Carly, and of course...
Hi, everybody. Thank you. How are we doing today? Are we having a good con? Has it been great so far? Good Sunday? I love it. Well, welcome to the Skywalker Sound panel. I'm so incredibly honored to be your moderator today. We're going to have a great conversation with two of these legends that are about to come on stage. First up, he is the voice of General Grievous, the B-1 battle droids, the incredibly charming Bib Fortuna, and the man behind some of the most iconic sounds in Star Wars. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Matthew Wood.
Oh, hi. Where should I sit?
Wherever you want. Sit in the
hi,
corner.
everybody.
Yeah, and with him, sound designer, voice of Proxy in The Force Unleashed, and even credited as Poggle the Lesser in the Episode 3 video game, among many other, yeah, it's true. Did you know that? No, bet you didn't. But many other incredible characters in that galaxy far, far away that we love and adore. A man who can break down the music and audio of Star Wars like no one else, Mr. David W. Collins.
I just got here.
Welcome.
We just got here.
I know. I haven't seen you all day.
I
Until
know.
right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys been having a good
I thought
time?
I thought it started at 1 and I was late, but I
We
just
were told 1:15.
What time did this start?
I know that the sound team had a problem setting
started
things
at 1.
up.
There we
so
go.
Yeah, there was some guy who came
their
in and
sound
wanted
team
to
setting
mess
up
with.
that laptop took forever. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
fine.
where they are.
It's fine. Yeah.
You
Everything's
did it.
fine.
You were the sound team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. But have you guys seen any like Bib Fortuna or Proxy cosplays here? Or
Proxy cosplay, you'd have to be. I'd give you a cheeseburger if you had Proxy cosplay.
You've never seen a Proxy cosplay?
No, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know how you'd pull it off because he's just a skeleton, basically.
Right.
No, I haven't seen Proxy cosplay, but it's been amazing to be here and see all the love for Force Unleashed and all the characters over the years.
Believe it or not, it is Dave Collins' first con as a guest.
Yes.
Amazing.
That's true. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful. Well, welcome. No, of course not. Oh my gosh. No, you've been a host at Celebration many times.
I've hosted, for many years, for like 15 years, but never got an opportunity to actually to co-sign, with Sam and Matt, and it's been great. And it's my first time in Dallas-Fort Worth. I have family from Gainesville. I've never made it to this area. Anyone from Gainesville?
I'm from Jacksonville.
Okay. If your last name's Collins, we're probably related if you love Star Wars.
Right next door, Gainesville. Well, yeah, I want to just jump right into it. I'd love to pick both of your brains. Vast knowledge of everything. But, you've both had incredible journeys in sound, from working on the tiniest background details to shaping the big, just iconic moments that we all recognized instantly. So why don't you both describe your roles within Skywalker Sound and how you both work together within the company?
Okay, yeah, those are great questions. Gosh, so I'm a supervising sound editor. The job technically is anything that the director wants to hear in the movie besides music goes through our department, and we talk about the sound effects and the way we're going to record dialogue and creatures and all the Foley, all the very specific sounds of people walking around and their clothing movements and picking up little items. And so it's a way, I'm the conduit for the director to express himself through the script with sound. And so some of our predecessors who have done amazing work in this field are Ben Burt, who's made all the original
Give it up for Ben
sound
Burt.
effects. And so Ben was my mentor, and I've watched him work, and then we just sort of craft a crew that's based on the script. So Star Wars movies obviously are quite visual effect and sound effect heavy, so we need to have a very good, solid team for that. And then obviously there's a lot of dialogue recording and creatures and all kinds of different aliens and dialects and languages and locations we need to build. So we put together a team of folks and do that. And so that's kind of the job. And then Dave and I obviously we have a lot of other skill sets, and this is kind of something that George Lucas instilled very early in me, and we've passed down through the ranks here. It's just there was never a real, you only do this job and that and just keep to that. He was very open for us to, Dave and I are both voice actors, we both sing, and we both know tech, and we both, I'm sure there's other things we do that overlap. But yeah, so the job is, that's what the job is, and then we put together a fun team to do it. Yeah.
That's a great answer. Yeah. And of course, you've been there since a long time ago in a galaxy in Northern California.
35 years this last week, so
wow.
It's been a while.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to be brought in by Matt. I mean, we'd known each other for a long time, and I knew of Matt. I mean, I started as an intern in 1999 at Skywalker on the scoring stage there, helping record orchestras, you know, setting up, and then being there where there's a full orchestra.
The room this big, almost this big. I mean,
it's bigger than this. Yeah, the scoring stage at Skywalker can fit 125 piece orchestra. You know, we were doing classical records, we were doing all kinds of stuff, and my job was to wear, you know, an earpiece, and Leslie Ann Jones, who's the director of film scoring, she'd be like, David, move that C24 mic about a foot to the left over the timpani. And I'd be like, okay. You know, but that kind of music education straight out of school was incredible. But, you know, I was an intern and looking for opportunities. A position at LucasArts opened up for a sound assistant, and that was right when the PlayStation 2 came out. And so the amount of work just exploded, and I was able to kind of honestly put in my hours in order to hone a craft there, because there was just so much opportunity. And through that, because you were doing the battle droids, the voice of General Grievous, I remember we'd go back and forth, and you'd record or you'd come down, and then we started meeting at cons and stuff, and then we did the audio drama together. Someone just came by and reminded me of the Kyle Newman Smugglers.
Oh, yeah, one of the cons we did it. Yeah.
And then eventually, and then when the Disney sale happened, that's when we started doing voiceover together. Because Matt is also an ADR director, so he has recorded everybody. I mean, you recorded the main cast. You've recorded Harrison Ford. You've recorded Adam Driver. You've recorded Carrie Fisher. May she rest in peace. You recorded everybody. All over the world, you would go to them and pick up dialogue that was needed for these films. And he also would bring in a crew of actors. So in 2015, at the Disney lot, there were probably about 25 or 30 actors, and it was like Star Wars theater camp. And that started, I think, us working together again. And then every year there was another movie. And then by 2017, you were like, hey, come back to Skywalker. And so I started sound editing on Star Wars Resistance. And then eventually, you know, I was doing supervising the Lucasfilm animation with the Bad Batch, and doing sound design for Mandalorian Season 3 and Skeleton Crew under Matt's tutelage. People know Matt as a voice actor at cons. You should know he's brilliant. There's a reason why someone does this successfully for 35 years. He's an incredible problem solver. His problem-solving skills flow like water, and it's very fast. You work on instinct, and it's very fast, and it's always right. And I remember walking out of a mix going, he just gave me really good advice. And as soon as I would do it, I was like, oh my God, that's 10 times better. So Matt is, you know, you can feel the tutelage of George Lucas and Ben Burtt when you work with Matt, and it's just been one of the greatest pleasures of my life.
That's very kind, David. Wow. Thank you.
It's all very true. It's all very true. And I know you were mentored by Ben Burtt.
Yes.
What is one lesson or piece of advice from him that you still carry with you throughout all of the projects that you work on?
His sense of humor and his lightheartedness, I think, is something that I've taken on. And he never made me feel that, like, just like George, that something we were doing was out of the scope of our responsibility. And so on the early films, I met Ben when he was directing an episode of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles in the early 90s. And I remember coming into his office and working with him, and he's just so down to earth and really valued just like an approach to something that was maybe unconventional, or a way to shortcut something that doesn't. We didn't have to lay everything on tradition. It was always just, let's do this right now, and it was just another person. And I really felt the human connection with him, and his sense of humor made it very easy for me to work there, and I never really felt like, because I got that job when I was 17 years old, so I really felt like, what am I doing here? Sometimes, so imposter syndrome could be very high in that situation, but he made it incredibly easy for me to feel like I could just work there, and that was that vibe I try to continue, and also in the sound effects world. For one of my first big jobs for him was recording all the vehicles and everything we were going to do for the pod race in Phantom Menace. So he sent me out on all these amazing recording jobs, and even little things like he is so unconventional in the way he would cut a sound effect to work for a specific scene. And like we use the boulder roll from Indiana Jones as our guide to sort of show the different layers of sound effects, and you can see the idea that when you put something in synchronization with picture, your brain just automatically wants to connect those two pieces together, even if that might not be correct. Like there was a scene in Indy where Indy tries to jump over this chasm, and he grabs onto a vine, and the vine, he thinks he's okay for a split second, and then the vine pulls back, and it makes this sound effect. And the sound effect that Ben used was literally biting into an apple. But if you hear it by itself, the sound of the biting into the apple, you're like, oh yeah, that's somebody biting into an apple. But if you watch it in synchronization with him pulling on the vine, you totally believe that that's the sound that thing's making. And so all that, the literalness of sound design kind of was out the window at that point. And now Ben was always just like, go out and record things, and if something sounds cool to you or sounds fun or neat, like just, record it and bring it back to the studio. I'm sure we'll use it for something. And that was sort of his ethos of like, get cool sounds and we'll put them in sync and make them into things, not necessarily like, especially in Star Wars, when some of those early jobs are like you're making things that don't exist in real life, so it's not like you can find a pod and go record it. You have to create it. So there was just all kinds of fun connection there, and just little advice things like when we were recording vehicles, he was like, go find the area on the racetrack where all the racers have to slow down a little bit to make a turn and shift into a different gear and then speed back up again. And that area of the turn is always going to have the most dynamic part of the engine. And then if you listen to the pod race, you can hear almost every single thing. Sometimes a pod goes by, it has that like, it has like a 4 step thing that happens in there because it's always the gear change moment. So these are.
I'm gonna go sit down there because
Honestly,
I'm learning. So that's great.
Too.
That's great.
So there's just little advice things, and his sense of humor, and like Dave, that's one of the reasons why I like working with you is because we have a very similar sense of humor, and we take it. You don't have to take it 100% serious. We're making movies. We're not like, it's not brain surgery, even though maybe brain surgeons are really funny people. I don't know, but I'm just saying that. Like, we're making movies, and it's entertainment, and we're trying to do things that are fun and inspire people and are lighthearted, and it doesn't have to be completely like, oh my God, the pressure of millions of people are gonna see what I'm doing right now. I don't take that in. I just want to have fun and hope that comes through in the work.
Well, and you can't be creative when you're nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lesson I've learned over and over and over again. Like, even when we're, improvising scenes or trying to figure out, like, you'll get a note like from Favreau, and they'll give you a very targeted note, and if you stress about it, you're never going to come up with a solution. How am I going to fix that? How am I going to do that? But if you're playful, then you can come up with something and fix it. But nerves, that's a really important element, is to be human and let your creative side just be in an environment that fosters it.
Totally.
And you do a great job of that as well.
Well, that's what I love about Skywalker Sound. It just fosters that ability to play, the ability to just unleash just your raw creativity, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of collaboration that goes into each and every little detail. So David, I know you got one that you try to slip into every Stormtrooper scene, and I think it might be my favorite, something about a T-15?
Oh, geez. That was Matt. I don't know how that happened. Maybe you can remember, but the way I remember it, correct me if I'm wrong, is we were in Loop Group Loop Group is when, like I said, you have all those actors, okay? And there's Ray sneaking around Starkiller Base, and Matt's like, okay, he's got a list of a ton of cues he has to get through that day. And we're making a lot, we have some scripted stuff, but a lot of it we're just making up on the spot, like that playfulness we're talking about. And he goes, I need 2 stormtroopers that are talking down the hallway. And he goes, just 2, I need 2 stormtroopers. Who wants to do it? And I just stood up, and I was like, okay, like I'm going to walk up to the mic. And out of my peripheral, I see Sam stand up as well, and I go, oh, this is going to be something. And I almost know what he's going to say, and he goes, because of the whole conversation in A New Hope, right? Did you hear about the new VT-16? So yeah, I hear there's quite a thing to see. What was that? That whole thing?
Outgassing.
And I think, you must have known, or was it your idea?
I think, well, yes, but I used that as the reference point, because all these little moments, I mean, we've all seen the movies a million times, so that little interaction he's talking about of the 2 stormtroopers, just, you're seeing a little slice of life. It's like a weird little slice of life of 2 stormtroopers in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think even in the remastering, we might have turned it up a little bit, but it's
Nice.
Yeah, and that, so when they got up, this is the other thing about this group of actors that we hire. They're all able to improv in Star Wars. So they know all the references to the previous films. They can, speak the languages that we learn, like Huttese and Jawa, and so we have to be kind of quick. We have to go through the entire movie in a couple of days, and we have to make this sound authentic, but not stand out to the point where it's going to detract from the main story of what we're trying to tell. But it needs to be there. And so, yeah, and I think I might even said like outgassing.
You might have said it.
And
Sam just goes, did you hear about the new T-17s? And I was like, yeah, I hear they're great improvement. Or I don't know what I said.
Yeah.
I mean, we're improvising, and then it's gone, and then it's in the movie, but it happened in 15 seconds,
Yeah.
And then, of course, in Rogue One, it was the same thing. We revved it down to the 15s. We got it in The Last Jedi, but you can barely hear it when they're using the smelt.
They're hacking with the smelt.
Yeah, with
Benicio del
del Toro. And then Solo, they're in the mud pits of Mimban, and you actually sat me down in Ben's prequel office, your office, at the ranch, and you're like, this was way before Solo came out. And he's like, watch this movie and tell me where that T-15 joke's going to go.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I stayed until midnight at the ranch and just watched the movie. Might have cried a little. And because I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting in the Ben Burr prequel office. And found it, and found just like a tiniest place it could go, and then Rise of Skywalker too, with Zori Bliss's planet, whatever that was.
Oh yeah, we put it there.
Yeah, 17s are down. All right,
Yeah.
we're on foot, or we walk from here. Yeah.
Yes, and then in
with
Rogue One
Solo.
as well on Scarif, right?
Yeah.
On Scarif,
There's like a moment.
before we're taken out. Yeah.
There's like some,
Yeah, on the
it's so
beach.
good.
But I mean, with a lot of that stuff, like I remember you're like, okay, Book of Boba Fett, these Jawas are building this thing for Pelimato, David, and I'd get up there going, it helps to be a sound editor because you're like, what will this sound like when I pitch it up? I'm like, okay, here we go, Mame, like that, and then you pitch it up and it just sounds like a Jawa, and then it mixes in with all the old, Mandalorian second episode was it was me and Acord, David Acord, who's a hugely talented and prolific sound designer. Just his contribution is enormous. We ended up being the Jawas in that episode.
And things can happen that are fun. That's when we bring something, when we do all these recordings and we take them through editorial, we pick the things we like, and then we play them for the director. And it's always a great day when they're like, wow, I never even thought that that's something that we could do, or that's made it so much more come to life. And like the Jawas in that section when we did the Suga, there was like,
the egg.
They have an egg.
Suga.
They have an egg that they're taking around, and so we were like, what's the word we could use to like make it be like we all personify to the egg, and then
Ben has that book with like filled with beeps, bloops, and boscas.
It was from the travel guide, the Huttese travel guide that Ben Burt made. So we find that and we all go Suga into the egg, and then the one with the Ibada, or what when they all pull out their gun and we all
we all did the moment, the R2D2 New Hope stun moment, but we all did it at the same time as a group.
That Jawa that knocks out R2 in New Hope says a particular phrase, and so we went back and watched that and got that phrase, and then there's a scene where they all the Jawas do that to Mandalorian at the top of when he's on the transport, Sandcrawler. And so we all did it at the same time, and John loved it. John Favreau was like, because that wasn't scripted, that wasn't in there, and so he's like, that's the value add we want to have, and that's another thing about working on Star Wars for so long, is part of it is when we bring in new directors and new people that really want to be part of Star Wars, and we're like, yeah, we want to hear your unique voice about the way you want to tell a story, but we can keep you inside the universe to use these tools and help you enhance the Star Wars experience for the fans and to keep continuity. You know, now that you can watch everything on Disney Plus all back to back, you can switch from animation to a film, like to a episodic, to the thing that you made, the what's this, like the screensavery thing? What was that called?
Oh, Galaxy of Sounds?
Yeah, Galaxy of Sounds.
Yeah,
and like
but,
all those things have to go together, and so we have to keep that quality up. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that Jawa moment, because I remember one time I went to go see a movie or something, and I said, oh, I just went and saw Black Panther last night, and you were like, oh, how's the track?
Yeah.
And I was like, the track? You go, yeah, the mix. How's the mix? And the musical part of my brain, just to get back to the music, really took off, because I'm like, of course, it's a concerto for dialogue. I mean, it's the music, the sound effects, the Foley, and the dialogue work, which is a huge part of what Skywalker does too, that comes together in this almost like music concrete track. And so, you know, because picture editing is so rhythmic, you know, like Paul Hirsch used to talk about the rhythm. It's a temporal art. You experience it over time. When you add a big like that, it's almost like a percussive hit.
Yeah.
That like drives the pacing and the rhythm of the cut, and makes a moment that didn't feel percussive suddenly, you know, you're hitting the cut in a way that he wasn't anticipating when it was edited together in the editing room, but then we hit it and it gets a laugh. So it's like a triple win, you know, and those moments are just great because you can surprise yourself, you can surprise the director, and hopefully not in a bad way. But they're also very encouraging to, like, you know, John Watts and Chris Ford the same way. Try it, you know. And if you didn't like it, he'd tell you and be like, no, I get it. But no, let's broom that away and like, yeah, keep that. That's fine. You know, and that's really fun because you feel like you're really contributing to the overall picture.
It's beautiful. David, I actually went to your live taping of the soundtrack show yesterday in here. Was anyone else here for that?
Yeah, Friday. Yeah.
It was incredible. Yeah.
That was fun.
And just sitting in the audience, I was stunned. I mean, I had no idea how many consistencies there were within Yoda's theme, Duel of the Fates, the Force theme, Anakin's like betrayal theme, and I know you have like a very vast musical background and even created the theme for Star Wars Visions, right?
I did just the opening logo. That was actually, I have to credit Matt for that, because you know, they came to us and they're like, we need a logo for this. We have a logo music and for Star Wars Visions, if you've seen it. And it was very Marvel sounding, and they're like, we want something simpler. We don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And Matt consults. You know, Matt is not just Skywalker Sound. He's a huge part of Lucasfilm. The legacy info, you know, knowledge that you have is huge. And so they go to Matt saying, help us solve this problem. And they came to me, and then I started pitching them stuff. And then they want yeah, more like that. And then I just started mocking stuff up, and finally it turned into a composer gig. But yeah. In my head, it's all the same. It's like when you talk about George really wanting people to have multiple facets for their creativity, it is easy to get pigeonholed. But I think if you're a creative person at all, you have multiple interests, and how was the track? How did the track sound? You're thinking about, on a macro level, what the experience is. And that movies have so many different artists working on them: production design, script, acting, music, costumes, visual effects, you know, lighting, photography, composition. I mean, there's so many things that come together. Directors are expected to know all of these things, you know, and so if you're a sound artist, I feel like you should be aware of all of these things too, you know. I mean, Michael Giacchino is such an inspiration to me, because he went from, you know, he did marketing, then he did music for video games, but you know, you can get pigeonholed into that. Then he jumped to TV, then he jumped to film, and now he's directing, you know, because he's a creative and he understands storytelling. I think anyone who's seen Rogue One understands how brilliant of a storyteller he is with music. And I feel like with sound, you know, you're complementing the actors' performances. You're complementing the shots, and you're complementing the music, and it's all one experience. And that's kind of how my brain. I'm a theater kid. I grew up as a theater kid. I know you are too. I mean, yes. Matt's done a ton of acting, a lot of theater, and it all is the same in my brain.
Beautiful. Is there a tune in Star Wars or any other soundtrack that you love that you would love to blend into another piece that you might create in the future?
Oh gosh, I don't even know how to answer. Wait, is there a tune? Hold on.
Something you love, because you know the Force theme,
Yeah.
how John Williams has incorporated that into many other things, slowing it down, spacing it out in certain ways. Is there something that you love, like a tune in Star Wars or a tune in another movie that you love that you would love to put into another theme, like Visions or
Oh gosh.
something like that?
I mean, the Kiners do brilliant music. John Williams is a genius. One of the first thing that comes to mind, it's not something that I would do, but just to point out, because I don't know if it's in there in the same way anymore, because I know the credits changed in Force Awakens between the theatrical release and the home theater release. In the theatrical release, in the credits, John Williams combined the Force theme with Rey's theme because they have the same chord progression. And that's one of the things I noticed. For you music nerds out there, it's got a very Dorian sound. It goes from the 1 minor to the 4 major. And, in my head, I was like, does that mean she's a Kenobi? Or because it was Obi-Wan Kenobi's theme, but it was only Obi-Wan Kenobi's theme in the first movie. It makes perfect sense that she's a Force user, and that theme would be that way. And then also, you hear a little bit of she's a scavenger in Force Awakens, so you hear Williams orchestrate with that da-da-da-da-da-da-da, from the Jawa's Sandcrawler theme in A New Hope, before he hits you at da-da-da-da-da-dee with the strings during the reprise of that theme. Like, he thinks that way, and people think I'm making this up. But that's what composition is. It's about transformation and modulation and things like that, and bringing back repetition of ideas, that kind of thematic writing. You mentioned Ben Burt and the Pod Racer. Those sounds, you can hear some of those sounds like in More American Graffiti. You can hear some of those. He's been collecting them for years. And I had an episode called Faster in The Bad Batch Season 2. And I met with the director, and he's like, I don't want to use any of Ben's pod race sounds because those are so iconic. That's Mahonic's pod, that's Sebulba's pod, that's, Odie Mandrell's pod, that's Anakin's pod. And so, but I wanted to make it Ben Burt-like, and I just studied and studied and studied those, and, to see kind of his signature sounds over the years was fascinating, because I found some stuff in the library and I was like, oh, no, that's too close. And some stuff that was like pleasingly similar. But to get inside the creative head of someone like that, sound design is very similar that way, where it is kind of variations on a theme. And watching what he did in the prequels in particular with the pod race and, you told a great story about the depth charge one time, how that happened on the mix stage.
Oh, you mean for
Attack of the Clones?
Yeah. So that was another one where we just wanted to have something unique, because it actually, I can't remember, and I always forget because it's been 2 different ways, what the final, does he say seismic charge or sonic charge?
Seismic.
Okay, seismic, yeah, because whatever it is, it's been flipped from what it was.
Right now it's sonic
Yeah.
because of the sound, maybe?
I don't know, I can't, is it seismic in the movie?
Seismic, yeah.
Okay.
Seismic.
Yeah, so we were trying to come up with that initial blast sound, because ILM had done this cool sort of reverse visual for it, and we kept going over it and Ben we tried all these different sound effects in there, and then Ben in the mix was like, let's just go with nothing, let's just have nothing happen, and so we did. We eliminated the first sound, and then it would just do the big explosion, and George loved it, and we went for it, and it was just one of those moments where Ben definitely is also very unorthodox in his thinking about sound. Now with digital technology, obviously we can have a track that has hundreds and hundreds of tracks to make up a scene, and you've cut a million different things to make something work. I'd look at Ben's tracks sometimes, and it was 8 things for a scene or something. He would just be very specific about what he made, and they all had personality, and that was another moment where he's like, let's just take that out and see what that plays like.
He had eight tracks to him was 8 different tape machines that he would have had to have synchronized back in the day in a very laborious.
It was more of a artistic process back then. I mean, not that it's not artistic now, but mechanically artistic, where you have to actually synchronize hardware and make it work that way, and cut tape and splice and
I don't think I had an opportunity to tell you this, but I ran into him last week because he still comes to the ranch. He's still there, and nowadays he's just like, "Hey, David, good morning. What are you working on?"
Yeah.
and just super friendly. And he invited me up to his office. And the reason I bring this up is because you talked about, humor and playfulness and Ben, and he still has that sort of seeking spirit, that intellectual curiosity that you have as a young person, because I was just like, is that your original Nagra tape recorder from back in the day? And he goes, this? Oh, this whole table is all the original stuff I had in my apartment near USC back in 1975 when I started making the sounds. Here, let me show you this. And he starts showing me stuff, and he's like, oh, look at this and this oscillator. Doo. I'm like, that's the tractor beam. Yeah, that's a tractor beam. Okay, let me tell you, and then he's like, oh, let me tell you about this tape. Let me tell you about this tape machine I have over here. Oh, they just got rid of this one tape machine. It's down in LA now. I need it now. Oh, by the way, you want to go see my IMAX film? And then he shows me look at this IMAX film I directed in 1996. And he's just his room is like a museum, and his heart is just, and I leave, and he's like, all right, good to see you, Dave, bye. And I leave, and I'm going, I still haven't gotten over the fact that he said good morning to me.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So, and that really does set, between him and George, just really set the culture of that place. And
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have that entire company without him. That was that kind of thing. Both ILM and Skywalker Sound, which came around the same time. I mean, Ben, I think it was just in the last month or so that he had his 50th anniversary for working there, and both those companies would not exist were it not for the artists that created them, that were sort of, George would make Star Wars films, and then in between each film, it was like, well, what are we going to do now with these artists? And then luckily people like Steven Spielberg would be making films as well and say, I want to use all your team. So Skywalker, we do all kinds of other movies like Pixar, we do all of Marvel's movies, and we get directors like Paul Thomas Anderson, and we do a lot of documentaries, and we have a huge, a lot of people like to come to our place because we take sound seriously. We look at it as, seriously in the fact that it's not just a technical process, it's something that can contribute to your film and actually expand your film's reach as far as the script is concerned. So it's fun to have filmmakers coming in and really want to utilize the sound process, and the same for ILM. And so it's now gone on 50 years of legacy. We have a giant, massive library of sound effects that we can pull from to make these movies, and it's a very unique place. And it's in Northern California too, which is a little outside the Los Angeles area. It's 7 hours north of LA, and there's just a beautiful location. Skywalker Ranch is a huge part of it because it's this beautiful place that George took the profits of the original Star Wars and put them into this location, and it's like nothing I've ever seen, and it's certainly like nothing I've ever seen in working in the film industry, where you're just out in nature. You've got a lake,
redwood trees.
Redwood tree. I mean, it looks like Ewok forest right outside your house, or right outside your office. And you can just go, and if you're having a moment or trying to work out something and figure out something, you just walk outside and do a little walk around the loop and be in nature, and it's completely, that is a huge part of Skywalker Sound.
And there, you talked about imposter syndrome. I'm sitting here with you. There are so many talented people that have worked on Star Wars at Skywalker Sound over the last 48 years. I mean, and in the building, this month, there's just a dozen you could name off that are just incredible sound editors, designers, mixers, Foley artists, dialogue editors, and it's humbling to be around that talent, and it pushes you, I feel like, to be at your very best, and I feel like even at this panel, you learn something every day, and you're never off a learning curve, which is just, again, keeps you fresh and creative. And I just wanted to give a shout out to our colleagues at Skywalker Sound, because we're up here, but it takes an army of people to do a feature. I mean, Matt just led the charge all summer on Fantastic Four as the supervising sound editor, and that was just a huge movie, and you do several of those a year, it seems like. So, you do just an insane amount of work, and I don't think people really realize how much your work has affected popular culture over the last 35 years. So, anyway, very humbling place to work. So give it up for Skywalker Sound.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
One little note about that's a Star Wars connection into Fantastic Four. when I started working on it, the director, Matt Shackman, who I'd done WandaVision with, he was like, I want you to make Herbie, who's the droid in the show. And Kevin Feige was like, oh, it can't sound like Pixar, and it can't sound like Star Wars. And I'm like, I work on both of those, okay? So I had to, like, I gave him all these different versions of Herbie. And they're all based on, not all of them were based on my voice. Some of them were totally pure synthesis, and then one of them that he picked out of, I gave him a batch of 8. Like, it was very late. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning or something, but I gave him a batch of 8, and then the one I got the call from Kevin and Matt. They were like, "That's the one. That's the one. It's perfectly situated between Star Wars and Pixar. It's right there." And you know, because it was supposed to be 1965 retro technology. And that's the one that in my brain when I was doing it, I was like, what would a battle droid sound like impersonating Wall-E? And that's really the one that I made for that one. That was the note I made, and that's the one they picked. I was like perfectly right there.
And that's the one in the movie.
That's the one in the movie. Yeah. So Herbie is that exactly that. And I kind of used some of the techniques we've done with Chopper in there too. But like, I did want it to sound like it came from that universe, and that was just a fun thing to know that both, you know, those two, the creatives on the Marvel show appreciated what we'd done and wanted to have something in that pocket, and we were able to provide. And I've been getting, and I just had a little Herbie maquette, or the thing that you could get for the popcorn bucket or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I had that on my table, and I was, oh, you're Herbie too, and everyone seemed to like that type of vibe. But it is a battle droid impersonating Wall-E. Both shows that I did work on, so it's okay.
Congratulations, by the way.
Congrats. I loved Herbie so much. Well, I would love to see you and your voice modulation and voice changer live. Can we do that?
Oh,
With
yeah.
Grievous
Here,
and-
let's switch places.
Is that a thing?
I brought one. I had this because I've been traveling a lot, and I literally we're working on the Mandalorian and Grogu movie back in LA, and then Jon Favreau's actually doing the Oswald film at the same time, so he's another person that likes to do multiple things at once. But I had my gear there, so I thought I would bring it here and then see if I could make something happen. So I'm going to put this mic down in a minute. When I put the mic down, then we can start using that one. And then I have 2 characters I can play through the modulator here. Let's see.
Just a moment. Okay, first one is Welcome to Rebel Scum Con. This is General Grievous. Crush them and make them suffer.
Can you sing Bunky Dunko in that voice?
I'll do that in one moment. Let's just do the other one here if it works. Welcome to Rebel Scum Con. This is a battle droid B1. Roger, roger.
Any requests?
Chinese takeout. You're ordering Chinese food, right? Let's do that.
Grievous ordering Chinese food?
Yeah.
General, okay.
Ordering takeout. General Grievous needs food too, right?
Yeah. Do you want some beeps? You want me to beep you in? Beep, beep, beep.
Hello? Is this General Joe? I'd like the spicy mandarin chicken, please. And, do you have any of those, fresh egg rolls? I don't like the fried kind. I'm vegetarian. Thank you.
I can retire now. That was good.
Improv, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway,
Improv.
there you go.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
I'm always, every time that, because that's not the first time it's happened whenever I've done a panel with you. You've done it before once, and I've been like, oh my God, it's General Grievous.
There
I'm
he
such a
is.
fan. Yeah, it's so cool. Do we have time for maybe 1 or 2 audience questions? Please, please.
No,
just
we got to
one.
cut, it looks like.
Just one. Just one.
One,
Okay.
one.
Yes,
We
thank
get
you.
one.
Okay.
We get one. We get
One.
one.
Okay.
Oh.
2. We have 2. Yeah.
You're going to have to fight for it.
Fight to the death. Yes. Okay, great. Combine your questions into one. Yeah.
This question could probably easily be answered with a Google search, but I figured since it's Matthew Wood, what is the TIE Fighter sound and what is it comprised of?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, the TIE Fighter sound, which is one of those classics. And I'll say another thing about that. We have that giant library at Skywalker Sound, but we do have a subset of the library that's restricted. And that's to anything that's come into Star Wars, because we want that to be very specific to our projects. And the TIE Fighter, that's why a scene like in Force Awakens when Finn and Rey are running away on, they're on Jakku, right?
Jakku, yeah.
Yeah, so they're running away from Jakku, and then I think it's Finn or someone goes, shh, listen. And then you hear the TIE Fighter sound. And because we've kept it so discreet to our show, like everyone knows that's a TIE Fighter and you feel it. And that's a moment where sound kind of contributes to the story in that way. It's a few things. And it's funny, it's one of these things that I'm sure you wrestle with too, Dave, where we make a show and the sounds exist for that show, and then you have another show that's going to have those same things, but the original thing didn't do those moves or didn't do that particular flyby or landing or any of those things. So you have to create something that Ben has made, and you now have to make a version does more. And the original TIE Fighters were just a bunch of pass-bys, and it wasn't that many things. And so these new movies now, they're with the whole situation when they run, but there's an element of it that's car tires on wet asphalt that has the shh. That's like sort of the shimmer sound. Yeah, and then there actually is a legacy sound even that predates Ben that he got from a movie that he really likes that I probably shouldn't say because that's his secret sauce, which is a part of it.
But there's an elephant.
There's
right?
an
It's a baby
elephant in there
elephant
as well, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
the main sort of yell is a baby elephant screaming, and then the tire going on wet pavement is tremolo. Tremolo is amplitude modulation. So when you add a tremolo, it's but that element kind of fell away after A New Hope. I feel like.
Yeah, that's part of it.
But and then it's funny because when I was cutting Star Wars Resistance, the first episode is this giant TIE Fighter, and I was running out of material for X-Wings and TIE Fighters, so I found elephant recordings and just pitched them way up, and they would just screech overhead because I'd read that book.
TIE Fighter's such a great sound.
It's Ben Burt. That is such a perfect example. The lightsaber is the other most untouchable. Anyway, so we're out of time.
Yeah, we probably have to wrap up.
Just really quick, one more question. Sorry, I can't help myself. If you could create a brand new Star Wars sound effect using only objects in this room, what would you use?
Can I still have this? Yeah.
No, you can't use any.
Okay,
yes.
all right, fine.
I'd put Matt in front of a microphone, and I mean, you've done so many creature voices, and gosh, in this room, like objects. I mean, usually it happens when you hear like a unique squeak or a rattling air conditioning, or feedback is even good too. If you get a certain interesting feedback, you can pitch it up or pitch it down, and it becomes some sort of weird whooshy element. Or if you cut the top of it off and you replace it with an explosion, it becomes a really interesting blaster. Pew, pew, that sort of thing.
Oh, I can play you the last one I just recorded. I was in England, and I was in Hampton Court, and there was a staircase that had an amazing squeak. Let's see if I can get it on this thing.
Dying bird.
So that could be a creature. It could be something. I haven't used it in something
Fantastic.
yet, but that's just something we
love
found.
that.
We just found. Yeah.
I was so obsessed with this ronking, screeching metal idea that, the episode of Mandalorian Season 3 where there's that bird atop that's perched and has stolen one of the foundlings.
Yeah.
I made these creatures out of metal screeches, those kind of like pterodactyl-looking creatures, and that's kind of the direction I went. And there was all metal ronks and screeches like that. And I was like, oh, this sounds so weird and alien. And Favreau was like, yeah, that's good. I was thinking more like a T-Rex with wings, though. Can you make it heavier? I had to redo the whole thing, and I was crushed. But I mean, he's so great. And like, when I did the turtle gator at the beginning of the first one, he did no notes, But by the 4th episode, he's like, yeah, no, you're doing great, but take some time. Maybe try that one again. I want it bigger. Anyway, I ended up repurposing in the Bad Batch when all those zoo animals escape, in season 3. I ended up repurposing those sounds. But that was a great creature, what you just played.
Yeah, little the
Fantastic.
King's Door.
I'm looking forward to hearing it. Something. Awesome. Well, a big round of applause to David W. Collins and Matthew Wood.
Matthew Wood.
Awesome.